guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley. I'm an intern architect in Ontario, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how to pass the ExAC exam, my top 5 resources and tools that I use to pass the exam, and there are a lot more than I thought, so stay tuned. So number 1, books. So I used a couple of different books, and of course, if you watch my other video on how to get started, it's important to keep in mind what are the areas that you have less experience and to tailor your resources according to that. So for me, I knew that for design, I didn't really need a lot of information on that or resources because I had a lot of experience in design. So I was pretty comfortable with that. So what I did focus my time was on contract admin, the final project, and the code research. So on the ExAC website, they list the resources required. So there are 3 core resources that you need to have in order to write and prepare for the exam. And then there are some additional resources that you can choose from. I went through those and I ended up coming up with my own list of books and resources that I found useful. So the books that I found useful, of course, are the core books that are recommended by the ExAC, which include the Handbook of Practice for Architects, which are essential. On the website, you can log in and download the PDF. Now, I like to have the option of having both the PDF digital copy and a hard copy. So I went ahead and I printed out the Handbook of Practice and I put it in a little binder and just added the cover in the binder. So this was helpful for me because I would study at the library. So what I would do is I would just grab the sections that I needed and I would take that to the library and study. And I like to make notes, mark everything up. So I added some highlighters and bookmarks just to divide all the different sections so I can easily find things and take things out of the binder and take it with me when I go to the library. Now, of course, you also have the option to work with the PDF, which I do find helpful, but I personally like to have a hard copy where I could highlight things, make my own notes, move things around, and have that flexibility. So the second book that you'll need, which is part of the core resources and documents, is the National Building Code. So the National Building Code is about $100 for the binder. So for the copy that I have, I paid $100. And the soft cover is $80, which is also good. Now, the way I saw the National Building Code was this is going to be in my library. It's my Bible for the next couple of years. So I went ahead and I bought the binder because I was planning to have the flexibility of also taking out sections from the building code that I would need to as a reference for study or even for work itself, and then I could put it back in the same place. So I like the option of removing pages and taking them back in and out. So I thought the binder was really helpful for me. So that's something that you guys will definitely need, especially for section 2, which is the building code. For the day of the exam, you're allowed to bring your building code and you're going to have to reference this. This is your Bible, your new best friend for the next couple of years for your life. So it's good to have a copy, and I would definitely invest on a binder if you can. If you can't, the soft cover is good as well. So as you can see here, I have a bunch of, markers. I really marked up my building code. Now the challenge with the section 2 of the building code is time. So marking it up was very useful. I'll do a separate video on some tips and tricks for each section that I use so I could successfully pass the ExAC on a later video, so stay tuned for that. But for now, we're just going to focus on the tools and resources that I use. So those 2 are the main core documents. Now the ExAC also recommends internship program document, which is a PDF, as part of your study material for the ExAC. Now I'm going to start going into the additional books that I use to help me prepare. So these include the Building Construction Illustrated. Now, this was very helpful for the final project. So I use this book to answer some of those questions in the objectives for each theme. So for the final project, this was very helpful. It's a great book, and I highly recommend getting the Construction Illustrated. So this is the 5th edition. Now for school, you may already have some of these books already. I had, when I was in undergrad, I got an older edition of the Construction Illustrated. This guy is the 3rd edition. So I had the 3rd edition. I went ahead and I upgraded when I was studying, and I upgraded for the 5th edition. If you're not able to spend and buy the 5th edition, then the 3rd edition will do as well. The other book that was really helpful for the final project was the graphic standards. Now, this is the graphic standards. As you can see, it's pretty beat up. I use this quite a bit, even during my undergrad. I would say this is also almost a Bible, and it's an essential reference for design, and it's a great reference for the final project. So I highly recommend it. You'll also find this useful even while you're working, to reference even typical dimensions, and there's some construction illustrations which are really great. And so I thought this was very useful. Now I did, because I found this to be so useful when I was in my undergrad, I did splurge a little bit when I was preparing for the ExAC, and I upgraded it to the non-student version, the architectural graphic standards. And this is a hard copy. Now this was a bit of a splurge. This was a little bit pricier. So if you're able to do it, then go ahead. It's a great resource. Even if you want to use it for work and for your future. And it has some human dimensions as well, which is also offered in the graphic standards for the student. It's just a smaller version of this. So I would definitely recommend the graphic standards as well. And this was really helpful for the final project. The other book that I have to say, if you're not able to get the graphic standards, do get this one. This one was really helpful. This was a great addition to the references and to my library. It's the Architect Student Companion, the 6th edition. This was great. The illustrations are great. The content is really good. It really lays it out nicely. So for example, it really goes through how to design a building with the codes, and it goes section by section, the process of building a project and a building together. So it's very nicely laid out. It really goes through it step by step. And I thought this was a great addition to the library. So here you can see it talks about selecting the structural system and the factors that you should consider when selecting a structural system. And then, so they go through the different systems and the materials associated with each building type and what's recommended. So I can't rave enough about how great this book is. I really highly recommend this. You'll really get a lot of value out of it, even beyond, actually most of these resources, you'll get a lot of value out of it, even beyond the ExAC exam, which is great. So those were the top books that I used for the final project. Now the graphic standards, some of them do blend out nicely into even contract admin and project management. They have a few blurbs about it in the graphic standards, so I thought that was really helpful with the graphic standards. Now if you're looking into books for contract admin, for example, you're going to need the CCDC, of course, documents. You're going to need them all, and you're going to have to know them really well for the ExAC. So there are some CCDC guides that you can use as well, and I would use those as well to help you prepare. To help prepare for section 4, you would also use the handbook of practice as well. And of course, the handbook of practice applies and is useful for all of the 4 sections, except for the building code, where the building code itself is the most useful. But of course, the handbook of practice would be used for all 4 sections. And I sprinkled in a few books here and there in the areas that I thought was needed a bit more. Now, if you look at the results of the ExAC, you'll notice that there is a high percentage that you will pass. There's an 85–80% chance of passing, which is a good, it's pretty high percentage rate to pass, which is really encouraging, but you still need to prepare and make sure you do. And you'll notice as well, and I would take a look at what are the percentages of pass and fail on each one, and what are, in terms of an average, the ones that most people struggle. So it seems like the final project was one of the areas that was a bit more challenging for everyone because it does encompass an overall knowledge, building materials, construction techniques, and so on, and a little bit of structure and design. So a little bit of everything is kind of involved in the final project. So that was one of the challenging ones, which when I saw that, I knew that I needed a few resources to help with my study in those areas. So the second tool and resource that I used to study and help me pass the ExAC exam was the RAIC webinars. Those were fantastic. If you take anything out of this, I would highly recommend taking the webinars. They're worth it. There is a small fee associated, but I'm telling you, they are worth it. I would say they're critical. I highly recommend taking them. If you don't get the books, if you're not able to get one or two of the books, at least try to invest in the webinars. They are really, really helpful. Now, they do offer one for building code, which is for section 2, the code research, and they offer another one for section 4, which is all about contract admin and project management. I highly recommend it. It's worth your time, and they usually do it a few months prior to the exam, so usually in the fall. So keep an eye out for the RIC webinars. They'll usually announce when it's happening, and you can sign up and register for the webinar. The third resource that I used was study guides. Now, one of the challenges in preparing for the ExAC exam is the lack of resources and information of how to prepare for the exam, which can be frustrating. So what I did was I knew that the ARE, the American-based exam, had a lot of resources and information out there. So I used a lot of the resources that were offered for the ARE participants to use for the ExAC. Now, it's important to keep in mind that ARE is a bit of a different exam in terms of course, the way it's laid out. And it is said to be that the ARE is a bit more difficult. Now, I can't say it is or isn't because I didn't personally write the ARE. I wrote the ExAC and I didn't do both, so I can't compare exactly. But that is what I heard from other people in regards to the ARE. Now, what I can tell you about the ARE, just looking at it at a glance, is that the ARE is a bit more detailed. The ExAC is organized into 4 sections, and it's a bit of more of a general information of each. Now, the ARE really gets into the depths and details of everything, which I believe is what makes it a bit more difficult. And so I knew that that would actually be very good to use some of the ARE content to help for the ExAC exam. So the third resource that I used was the study guides. I used study guides that are used for the ARE exam to help me prepare. Now, you don't necessarily need to get the study guides. I use them because I didn't have a lot of time to kind of put together all my notes and all the content together. So I opted to buy a study guide for the sections that I needed a little bit more help with to study for. And I use those, and those are actually quite helpful just going through that information because the way it was laid out was really helpful, and it did save me a lot of time and preparation. So if you don't have a lot of time and you're able to afford to get some study guides, I highly recommend it. So the study guide that I use, and I did a bit of research and compared a few, and the top 2, I found 2 that I was kind of compelled to use, but the one that I did settle on was the Architect Exam Prep. So I found this to be very helpful, and they have, as you can see here, some study packages for the various sections for the ARE, but they also blend nicely for the ExAC exam. So you see here they offer practice management, project management, construction evaluation, programming analysis, project planning, and design. Now, it is broken up a little bit differently from the ExAC, but these topics run as well in the ExAC exam. Like, for example, project management is also part of section 4. Now, it doesn't dive in as much detail as the ARE, but you need to know a little bit of project management for the ExAC exam. So if you're able to get through all the content for the ARE, you'll be fine for the ExAC. which is comforting to know. So sometimes it is better to go a little bit overboard with your preparation and study than to get to the exam and feel like you didn't study enough or you didn't prepare enough. So the other study guide material that I was looking at, but I opted to go with the Architect Exam Prep, is the Black Spectacles. They're a little bit more pricey, but they offer some really good content to help you prepare for the exam. Now, of course, this is for the ARE, but again, it was really helpful to use some of the ARE exam prep material for the ExAC exam. So here you'll see this is the website for Black Spectacles. So they have online videos, lectures, practice exams, virtual workshops, flashcards as well, and a lot of great content and study guides as well that you'll find to be helpful. So here you'll see they have project management, practice management. So if we click on this guy, they have video lectures, practical applications, real-time discussions with a senior architect to help you through the project management, and practice exams, some digital flashcards, and virtual workshops. So this was great. This is a great learning tool as well. And of course, this comes at a cost. And it's not expensively crazy. And if you are working, then it's something that is affordable. So for example, you'll see here that the premium is $149 per month. Now this is American dollars, so keep that in mind. So 1 month subscription will get you 24/7 access to the following: online video lectures, slides for all of the 6 divisions of the ARE, of course, which of course they also blend well with the ExAC. You also get online practice exams with 3 different tests for each. Now, these exams, you have to remember, they're probably a little bit more difficult than what you'll see on the ExAC, but they're a great preparation for the ExAC. So if you can do these ones, you can definitely do the ExAC as well. This is definitely a great tool to help you with your studying. And of course, they have the Pro and the Expert, and you can see what you get for each one. And so it starts to increase price, of course. So for the Pro, it's $199 per month. And you'll get the same things from the Premier, but where they slightly differ is you're going to be able to get access to the digital flashcards. You'll also get online real-life practical application videos and study guides for all of the 6 divisions. Of course, the Architect Exam Prep does come at a price, so let's look at the fees. Now, it's nothing crazy, I feel. Of course, you get some discounts. If you're able to team up with a few friends, you'll be able to get a 10% discount, so I would look into that. And then there are some monthly costs per package depending on what you get. So something to look into for sure. I would consider looking at some of these tools just to help you prepare. Number 4, sample tests. Now you can use sample tests just from the study guide. There are packages that include like the study guide, sample tests, and flashcards with them. So you can use Black Spectacles or the Architect Exam Prep for packages that incorporate some sample tests. But you can also use the ARE on their website. They have some sample test questions for each of their sections of the ARE, but you can use those to help prepare for the ExAC. So if you go onto the ARE website, you're actually able to do a demonstration exam, which is a great kind of sample test that you can use to prepare for the ExAC. Of course, it's not the ExAC, it's the ARE, but if you're able to answer some of the questions for the ARE, then you're going to be fine for the ExAC. It also helps you to get you in the mindset for the exam, so I would definitely recommend doing some sample questions and tests. So my last tool and resource that I used was podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to stay motivated, to keep yourself focused on your goal of writing the ExAC, and to keep your mind on the prize. So I use them to just keep myself motivated. So I would hear them on my way to work or even at work while I'm drawing, and I would listen to it, and it would have some great advice from other architects that have written the exam. So I'd highly recommend getting on some podcasts. Some of the podcasts that I recommend that I listened to was Young Architect and the ARE Live. Now, of course, these are all for the ARE, but nevertheless, they were very helpful, at least for myself, to help me prepare for the ExAC exam. So down below in the description box, I've included some links to some of the resources that we've discussed in the video. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 resources that I use to pass the ExAC exam. Now comment down below if there are additional resources that you're currently using that I didn't list in this video and you'd like to share with other people. It might help someone. And comment down below if you're finding this series on the ExAC exam useful. I love to hear your feedback. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time on future videos. Bye!